Have you ever felt like everything in your life was falling apart at the same time? Your marriage feels strained, your finances feel tight, and even the peace in your home seems to have disappeared. You try to stay strong, but deep inside you wonder, God, where are you in all of this? But what if the story isn't over yet? What if God is quietly preparing a restoration that you cannot yet see? Grace sat quietly at the kitchen table long after everyone had gone to bed. The house was silent, but her mind was not. Bills were stacked in front of her. Unopened envelopes, overdue notices. Her husband had barely spoken to her all evening. Even the laughter that once filled their home felt distant now. She sighed and whispered softly into the quiet room, Lord, I don't know how we got here. Their marriage had not always been like this. Years ago, they prayed together. They dreamed together. They believed God would bless their family. But somewhere along the way, life became heavy. Financial pressure, misunderstandings, unspoken disappointments, and little by little, love had grown quiet. The turning point. That night, Grace opened her Bible, not out of routine, but out of desperation. Her eyes fell on a verse she had read many times before, Amos chapter 9, verse 13. Behold, the days are coming, declares the Lord, when the plowman will overtake the reaper. Grace paused. She had always thought that verse was simply about harvest, but suddenly she understood something deeper. God was describing a season of restoration, a time when blessings would come so quickly. It would feel like one miracle running into another. Grace closed her eyes. Tears rolled quietly down her face, and she whispered, Lord, if you can restore fields, you can restore my family. Nothing dramatic happened the next day. The bills were still there. Her husband was still distant. The problems had not magically disappeared, but something had changed inside Grace. Instead of worrying every morning, she started praying differently. Each day, she whispered simple prayers. Lord, restore our love, restore our peace, restore our finances, restore the joy in this home. She stopped trying to control everything and started trusting God with everything. Weeks passed. Then one evening, something small but unusual happened. Her husband sat beside her on the couch. For a moment, he said nothing. Then quietly, he said, I feel like we've been drifting apart, and I miss us. Grace looked at him in surprise. It was the first honest conversation they had shared in months. That night, something beautiful happened. They prayed together again, just like they used to. It wasn't a long prayer. It wasn't a perfect prayer, but it was real. And sometimes, that is exactly where restoration begins. Slowly, things began to change. Not overnight, but step by step. Communication returned, laughter returned, peace returned. Even their finances began improving in ways they had not expected. Grace began to see something clearly. God had not only restored their situation, He had restored their hearts. Sometimes restoration does not begin with a miracle. Sometimes it begins with a quiet prayer, whispered in the middle of a difficult night. But when God begins restoring what was broken, He doesn't just repair it, He renews it, He strengthens it, and often, He makes it more beautiful than it was before. Just like the promise in Amos 9:13, a season where blessings begin to overtake one another. If you are watching this today and your life feels like Grace's once did, your marriage struggling, your finances tight, peace missing from your home, remember this truth. God is still the God of restoration. The same God who promised restoration in Amos 9:13 is able to restore what feels lost in your life today. Because sometimes the very place where everything seemed to fall apart becomes the very place where God begins a new harvest of grace. If this story encouraged you today, subscribe to Grace and Truth Stories for more faith-filled stories of hope, restoration, and God's quiet miracles. And before you go, if you believe God can restore what feels lost, type Amen in the comments, because your story is not over yet.